we have a very long supply chain hack that has been going on since August 26th, August 26th of 2025. Now, I want to talk about how this hack has evolved and what the implications are for you and your company and ways you can stay safe as a company and as an individual. I'm prefacing this because I'm probably going to post this to YouTube as well, that I'm not a security expert. I'm here giving you my thoughts. Please feel free to leave comments in the comments on how we can improve. So if you are an expert and would like to join the stream and talk about this or other security related things, let me know. I'd love to have you on stream. I did actually reach out to a few people who are all super busy because of this, that I do know that are experts in the field. Unfortunately, they didn't have the time right now to do this, but hopefully we get some of them on stream in the future. So let's talk about it. I'm going to start where I believe this started, which isn't with the Shai Hulud initial attack. It started here, innocently enough, August 26th, 2025 at 10:30 p.m. UTC. The popular NX build system package was compromised with data stealing malware. The malicious version remained live for just over 5 hours before being taken down. But in that short window, thousands of developers may have been exposed. The malware did more than just steal SSH keys, NPM tokens, and Git config files. It weaponized AI CLI tools, including Claude, Gemini, and Q, to aid in reconnaissance and data exfiltration. This marks the first known case where attackers have turned developer AI assistant into tools for supply chain exploitation. I feel like this isn't actually true. I think maybe if you narrowly point it at like supply chain attacks, maybe it's the first time we've seen it in supply chain attacks, but we have seen AI coding tools used to mutate the code so that it was like still a different code. So like a lot of times the way that security scans scan for things is by looking for common execution patterns. And so one of the ways you can do that is by changing the code that you're running. So it has been used in that before, maybe not specifically supply chain attacks. So I think maybe if we look at it in that light, that's what they're talking about. Given the popularity of the Nix ecosystem and the NX ecosystem and the novelty of AI tool abuse, this incident, I don't know about that, but this incident highlights evolving sophistication of the supply chain attacks. Immediate remediation is critical, and anyone who installed the compromised versions, confirming the compromise, the advisory confirms that the maintainer's NPM account was compromised in the leak. Now, in a little bit, we're going to talk about how you can detect if you've been affected by this. I'm going to show you, and I hope to actually next week make a very simple script that people can leverage to basically do an auto detect of whether you've been hacked by this. You don't have to do like, does my computer have it? There's actually some simpler ways to detect, some really simple ways that I'm going to talk about, and you can just go do yourself. Let's keep going. So this was attack number 1. Attack number 2. On August 28th, Brian and Adrian notified the community that there is a second wave of attacks on the NX leaked credentials. Attackers are exploiting compromised credentials to make previously private organization repositories public. And as we are learning from the community, these are also forking these repositories into compromised user accounts. So basically what this did at this point was this initial one started leaking the credentials of all of these things. And the second attack basically was leveraging the leaked credentials. And so they were leveraging those leaked credentials and leveraging those for another round of attacks on the supply chain. So this is how this worked. So if you were compromised by this one, hold on, because there's more. They would use GitHub to expose your stuff. So private repository exposure, renaming private repositories to singular repository random string and making them public. This gave them a really easy way to find the stuff because they renamed the repositories and made them public. So then they could search GitHub for singular repository and just find a bunch of singular repositories. Repository forking. The other thing it would do is it would create forks of organizational repositories in the compromised user accounts, potentially preserving sensitive data even after the original repositories were secured. So they would make a fork when it was public, and even when it was remade private, that fork would stay out there. And what they were doing was in this first attack, they had stolen a bunch of user credentials and they were forking it in those just random people that downloaded and installed NX. So it's really, 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 really important that if you have found you to be hit by this, there are two options. There is the simple option and then there's the nuclear option. I'm actually going to recommend you the nuclear option. Why? Because your security on the internet is paramount, and I think you should take the nuclear option, and it sucks. It means formatting your drive. If you've been found to have this on you need to format the drive of the device you're on. You can go through and delete the offending packages and hope that we understand the full consequences of that package. We understand the worm that's on the computer and that you can fully remove it. And you're betting you can fully remove it. I don't like hope. Hope's not a great plan. The only way I know to be for sure is just reformatting. Currently, there are thousands of such repositories on GitHub. You can literally go look for them. The GitHub CLI appears to be a prime target as its OAuth tokens are particularly long-lived and vulnerable to abuse and hackers. Remember, I am actually going to cover how you can protect yourself from this type of attack in the future as well. So stay tuned for that. At least some things that are going to be helpful. And one of those is always leverage short-lived tokens. That way, anytime something gets stolen, it's useless now. By the time they get to leveraging it, it's useless. That is so good. So good. You just call them dungeons over there? That's fair. I just cannot wait till I'm back in the dungeon. I used to think that it was like a bad thing, and then I realized that all my equipment heats up the room that I'm in. And I'm like, yes, the dungeon was fantastic. The gulag was where people with a bunch of equipment that's running should be. Like, that's just where they should be. Now, I have to say, in the winter, my room is very nice. It's a little bit warmer than the rest of the house. All right, let's get back. So I'm going to post this. This has some check if you're impacted. It does not have anchors. So, step security. I'm going to get on to you a little bit here. Step security, one, kudos to them. They have released some of the most information that I have seen on them with like a lot of the details. Learn to use anchors. HTML to anchors. Not difficult. I want to anchor this part. I cannot. If you need help doing that, I can even help you on that. I can help you on that. Go to check if you're impacted. You can use this query to check your organization has been affected. You can replace this with your GitHub organization so you can check your organization there. I checked Null Labs. Null Labs has, I mean, it's all open source anyway, so it's like, oh, okay. All right. Secure your organization repositories. So make them private again. So these are immediate remediation steps. So when you're in a security incident, there's several things that you have to think about. What do I need to do right now? What is going to do this? Now, one thing that they didn't state here, this has no effect if you haven't gotten the worm off the offending machine. So step one in here, in this actual case, is to locate the offending machine and isolate it from the network. Step two, before step one, step two, and lots of people got this wrong. Step 2 is rotate all of the credentials of the offending machine on a separate machine, not on the machine that was that was compromised, but you need to go to a separate machine and rotate all of the credentials. Step 3, and in this case, step 1, at this point, as soon as we know, because what happens is if you don't do step 1 and 2, or let's say step A and B, if you don't do step A and B first, step 1 is useless. It just happens to you again. You just get slapped in the face with a new number, okay? So do step A and B first, then step 1 is good. Isolate, see this needs to be here. Disconnect the user from the organization while migrating the user. Revoke all access tokens for affected users. Yes, these step 2 and 3 should be step 1 and 2. Is my only critique here. Now, while you're doing this, I want engineering leaders to understand this was not their fault. Okay? You need to, and I know that you know this. You need to let the organization know this. I let everyone up to I don't know where up to. I think the whole leadership understand that in this case, with Node and how Node NPM packages work, it is not, if there is an incident, it would not be the user's fault. Okay? Just to be clear. Make sure that you guys understand that and that your organization understands this as well. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were doing what the industry standard people do. Now I'm going to give you some tips for the future, how your company can get through this without having incidents. Remove forked repositories, follow comprehensive remediation. So this was the first attack. But this is not Shai Hulud. Shai Hulud? Look, I read Dune and I never knew how to pronounce it. So I barely speak English. We know this. The next one. Now don't get me wrong. We're not just looking at step security blog articles. I got a bunch of other ones here. So don't worry. We have a gambit to run here. As everyone was thinking the NX package hack was coming to an end, things escalated quickly. The NPM ecosystem is facing another critical supply chain hack. The popular Tiny Color package, which receives over 2 million weekly downloads, has been compromised, along with more than 40 other packages across multiple maintainers. This attack demonstrates a concerning evolution in supply chain threats. The malware includes a self-propagating mechanism that automatically infects downstream packages, creating a cascading compromise across the ecosystem. The compromised versions have been removed from NPM. You take the previous thing that we had here, where this one was stealing secrets. And it did this. It was stealing your secrets. And we'll get into how it was stealing the secrets because I think it was so brilliant and just simple. They took an industry best standard and just used that. Anyways, it was good. It was brilliant. I loved it. They took that and then they said, what if we steal? What if we get the secrets to somebody who maintains a NPM packet? Could we just publish a corrupted, a tainted, some might even call it a little bit wormy. You know, when you get a little piece of bread and it's a little wormy, nobody likes it, but sometimes it happens. They did this, basically the exact same, where they were stealing credentials and uploading those credentials to Git. And while they were doing that, though, they were checking to say, hey, does this person have NPM credentials on this machine? Can I publish an NPM package from this machine? And if I can, let's go ahead and propagate ourselves. So this started very innocently. With just 40 packages on September 15th. 40 packages. And unfortunately, one of the things that it wasn't misleading. The compromised versions had been removed from npm, but the damage was done. The damage was done. 40 npm packages, especially popular ones, that's millions of machines. And when you get millions of machines, you get other people who have publishability on npm. What ended up happening from here is that as of Thursday, so 2 days ago, the last report then was over 500 wormy packages existed. 500 of them existed. And each day there was some more. So this was what, the 15th? What was the 15th? Was that Tuesday? Man, this week has been such a whirlwind. Let's see, the 15th was Monday. It was all week. It was my whole week. I hated it. All right. So each day they would be like, oh, well, it's 40. And then on Tuesday, they were like, well, it's 80. On Wednesday, they were like, well, it's 190. And then on Thursday, they were like, well, it's over 500. And everybody that was keeping a list had different. So trust me, one of the things that I did was like merge the lists. I found several places that were keeping list of infected ones, and I was trying to merge them to be like, what's the actual list here? Because we developed some of our own like self-detection tools, and I wanted to detect all of the compromised packages and just knowing what the compromised packages were. Now, as of Friday, around noon, I got an email from Sneak saying that they had no longer detected any new packages for the last couple of hours. So as I know from yesterday from Sneak, there are no new packages, and maybe it's been contained. That means they've gathered all of the NPM credentials and it's been contained. So they couldn't publish anymore. But I say that they have stolen hundreds of thousands of credentials, which means the attack from this is ongoing right now. And you need to go check right now if you've been had. And if you've been had, you need to delete all of your credentials and recreate them. You need to rotate everything. Absolutely everything. But there is some hope if you want to know which ones to take on first. So if we go through the technical analysis of this, this is like not post-mortem technical analysis. This is like day of technical analysis. So I'm not going to heavily go on this because it was a highly obfuscated bundle.js. The minified bundle.js, we don't know 100% of what it was doing. So this is another reason if you had this, in the end of the day, the safest thing is to reformat your hard drive. If you've been using Nix, NIX, this should be easy. You should just do it. One of the ways, if you've had it and you want to know how or what secrets they probably got. Well, the great thing for you is the malware leveraged Trufflehog. So the malware leveraged Trufflehog to scan the file system for high entropy secrets. So my recommendation is if you find it on your machine, download Trufflehog and see what it finds. You know at least the hotspots. I think you should go and rotate everything. Don't get me wrong, but you know the ones to start with. If Trufflehog found it, rotate those first. Target those first. Or if you found it on your system, Trufflehog. Now, you might be wondering, how would I do a quick and easy test of whether I've been had? Well, let's do that right now. We'll check if I've been had right now. It's pretty easy. You don't have to do a whole lot. You have to go to GitHub and go to the Null channel or to any organization. And there's two things that you actually want to check. You want to check your organization and you want to check your personal account. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to check our repositories and we want to look for a new repository that starts with Shai Hulud. Shai Hulud or Singularity. You want to check for those two. Turns out I don't have either Singularity or Shai Hulud. Now, the next one is a little bit more difficult, but you can go into one of these, any one of them, and check on the workflows. Because one of the things that Shai Hulud would also do is they would set up a workflow that used a webhook to exfiltrate secrets as well. So you can go in here and you can look at any, we don't have any, so it doesn't affect us there, but you can go to the .github workflows, and you can, let's see, we can go to something that does have .github workflows. I don't have any, I need more workflows, don't I? Oh wait, this is like way far behind. Oh, we have a .github workflow, don't we? Yeah. No, we don't. No, we don't. I should. I'm calling myself out here. Let's move on. Okay, so you could you can check your workflows as well, because that can exist there. I think that you can script this out with the GitHub command line pretty quickly to basically check every GitHub one. If you guys are interested in doing that with me, I will make that as a tool that will check all of your repos using the GitHub command line for the workflow Shai Hulud. That is your easiest and/or singularity. That's your easiest detection mechanism right there. Go check right now. If you found that, you've been had. Now, where you've been had, on what computer, that's a little bit more, if you have multiple computers, that's maybe a little bit more difficult. The other thing that you need to go do and check is you need to go and check your repositories as well. We did it to the company, but now you need to go to the individual and make sure in repositories you don't have those as well. It can do it to either place, and you've got to go and check those. That's your easiest detection mechanism. If you're wondering, hey, how do I check if I've been had? Go do it right now. Like, I actually mean it, go do it right now. I'm going to take a small break. I'm going to read chat. We're going to see if there's any questions. You go check and see if you've been had. Isn't it Shai Hulud? I don't know how to pronounce it. I really don't. Look, I've only read it in a book. I do know that they said it in the Dune movies, but I really dislike the Dune movies. And so I really dislike the Dune movies. And so, I don't remember how they pronounced it. They probably pronounced it correctly. Shai Hulud. Okay, let me type it for you. It's what they named the worm. So it's from the Dune universe, Dune, and it's like the great sandworm. It's the Fremen kind of worshipped Shai Hulud. If you weren't up on popular culture, which I always thought that I wasn't up on the popular culture, that is what it is. But it is spelled, just to be clear, when you're looking for it in your repos, Shai Hulud. Fantastic. I do mean, I am being serious. Like, you should go check, and you should check your companies. If your company hasn't done this, I'm going to give some recommendations that I think. Like I said, not a professional, but I spend more time in this and spend more time on corporate recommendations than I probably should. I probably should become an expert. I actually think that I'd like to get my ethical hacker certification. Although that's really different. Hacking and what we're talking about, how to keep a company safe, is way different. It's a completely different skill set as well. All right. So hopefully none of you found it, but we're going to continue on talking about this just a little bit more, especially because literally it consumed my entire week. All right. You can go. I have read all of these posts. You can go read them yourselves so you can validate what I am saying. I went to the top security places that I could for you all. I recommend all of these are from companies that I respect as far as what they do. And yeah, so go check them out. Now, what I wanted to end up talking about, last thing here on this, is when you're looking for Shai Hulud, what could you do to make this a non-event? So when you have a company, when you have a software company, and you're looking at this and you want to say, in the future, I want to make this a non-event. What are the things I can do to make this a non-event. And so I want to actually go through this with you. We're just going to do this. Number one thing that you can do right now is short-lived credentials. If you have short-lived credentials, this becomes less of a impact. Now, this isn't always feasible or always possible to have all your things as short-lived credentials. I understand this. But the more things you have as short-lived credentials, the better. The environment, because this could have hacked your local PC. It could have hacked your computer, your server. So we're talking about tons of places where credentials live, short-lived credentials. Now we're going to talk about these a little bit separately too, because you have your local PC and you also have your servers that are running npm packages. Short-lived credentials is the first step. 2, you need to have the ability to rotate your secrets. Okay? My recommendation was I actually knee-jerked and rotated my circuits. I rotated my secrets out of abundance of caution. I rejected them. I have a plan to do that. I have a catalog of all my secrets. I have where they are, what uses them and what leverages them. And I went through and I revoked and recreated my secrets. This is one of the reasons I've been so busy. But if you don't have the plan, if you don't have the ability at a company level, you need to automate this. You need to have some level of automation to do this efficiently and effectively. And you need to have this in plan. The next thing, and this is going to be a little bit of a spicy take, but I think probably when we're talking about PyPy, when we're talking about Node npm, all of these are going to be susceptible to these. Never, ever use at a company level, there's a couple ways to enforce this one. This one's a little bit of a spicy take. I realize this. This one's a little bit of a spicy take. I get it. Never use a package that's newer than 2 weeks old. All of these were caught within the first day of them being uploaded. The way that you overcome this is never to use a package that's newer than 2 weeks old. This literally solved all of our problems. And if you had implemented this in the first NX repository attacks, guess what? Most of it, it's a non-issue. Now, there's a couple things you have to think about when implementing this, because it is a little bit simpler than said than done. Now, there's a couple tools out there, and I'm going to name names because I know that they exist, but don't take it as you have to use these, and I'm definitely not sponsored by them, and I definitely have beef with some of them. So this is just me naming things that can do this, but there are companies like Azure DevOps, JFrog, I think they call it, what's the name of the feature? Software catalogs. There are tools like this. What JFrog software catalogs do basically is say that you approve the things that are in the catalog, and you can actually say that we don't use anything from npm until it's 2 weeks old. And so your developers pull from here. What it looks like is npm sits, or node packages sit here, and JFrog software catalog sits here. And when your engineers go, or CI/CD go to pull an image, they go here, and this then says, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get it because I don't have it. Usually this catalog will also cache it so it's faster the next time for the next person, and then return that. And what this does is you can set policies in here that says no package under 2 weeks old. It has to have matured. It has to have sat there for a little while. It has to have gotten reviewed. And if some incident happens, you can hard say no more. The other thing that a tool like this in the middle does is it allows you to say, let's put a hold on that. We don't want to update any new packages. I don't want to update any new packages. So that's one thing that you can do to help with this. That's one of the things that you can do. What about secrets that can't be rotated automatically? You have to rotate them. I understand. If you've been compromised, you've been compromised. You got to have a plan for rotating them. If that causes downtime, you've got to have downtime, and you got to schedule that ASAP. If you need downtime to rotate a secret, rethink your architecture. I'm not trying to be mean. You have to write your architecture planning on rotating your secrets. End of story. End of story. Another thing that you can do here. It's actually 4. If I could count. If Merrick could count. 4. I lost my train of thought. Missing how to count. Obsidian agrees with my spicy take. I don't look for confirmation. I feel like I get in a dangerous place where I very badly don't want to give people bad advice. And I found myself in this trap where I was looking for people to confirm my ideas so that I felt vindicated if it was the wrong advice. I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing to go and make sure that you're not way off of track. But you also have to make sure that you're not just trying to find somebody to confirm your idea. That doesn't validate it either. Just because somebody else has a bad idea doesn't make it a good idea. But I do. I actually have Obsidian up here. Less is safer. How Obsidian reduces risk in supply chain attack. It's absolutely on point. I was going to share this with you guys in just a second. But yeah, I think that honestly, NPM and the tooling should do this automatically. Like, unless if there's a critical security vulnerability that was patched, you should never take a 2-week-old package. Period. Like, that just is 2 wrongs. Welcome to your internet, Dad. 2 wrongs don't make a right. How many times have I had to tell my children this? You'd think I have 20 children, but no, I just have 3, and you have to repeat it several times. Son, sometimes you have to stop digging. If you'd like to be outside the hole, you got to stop digging the hole. That's just how it is. It's the laws of physics. If you keep digging, I can't help get you out. Let me help you. Anyways, don't bring up dad things. All right. Okay, so I've gotten so sidetracked. We have short-lived credentials. If they're short-lived, even if they get leaked, it's hard to leverage. Rotation and the plan to be able to rotate them, automate as much as you can. That's another fantastic one. Never use a 2-week or less old package. Like, I just cannot stress that one. And there's software catalogs. There's actually tools out there. Now, those tools are ridiculously expensive. And so I'm hoping that the communities bake this into the tools. Like, I would say Yarn, NPM, NPX, all of them should bake this functionality into it. The only reason they pull a package newer is from a high or critical vulnerability. So if there is a high or critical vulnerability fixed, it should accept that. But that's the only reason you ever select something that isn't a 2-week-old or less package. That's just, yeah. Again, you can leverage software catalogs. There's several companies. They are ludicrously expensive. Like, I can't talk about pricing, but they are very expensive if you're getting into this type of thing. If you're a big company, pay the money. Like, it's just pay the money. Go for it. It's expensive. It's highway robbery. They know it. They also know that you need it. Rotating a secret, you can still, I mean, I don't know the systems that you talk about, but you can generally in those get the new secret and then cut over to it. Cut the systems over to it. So you can usually do it in a 2-step process and avoid downtime. It depends on the criticality of the secret. It depends on the system that's going to take down. I'm not going to recommend one way. The people that would recommend one way aren't taking in the whole recourse. You could have a super critical system that somebody's life support's on. you don't want to just pull the plug on that, even if the secret's sitting there. You could have a system that doesn't even affect the majority. Let's say you're working on Gmail and it's the ability to search email. Like all of Gmail will still work, but the search bar breaks. Just go ahead and pull the old secret, and there's like 5 seconds or a minute of downtime on the search bar. That's an acceptable thing, and maybe you just do that. So there's a lot of nuance that goes into what you're going to break, how you're going to break it, what it's worth to the business, what the credential you're doing. Like, is it the credential to your bank? I would just pull it. If it's the credential to your bank, if it's the credential to your Twitter account, I'd let them have it. Like, go for it. I'm abandoning it anyways. I'm just joking. Don't do that. But like, it depends on a lot of stuff. There's just too much for me to go in and tell you how to do it, because I don't know your situation, your scenario, your service, your business impact, or any of that. And all of those things have to be taken into account. In a perfect world, we could talk about it, but we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a messy world, and we're all here along for the ride. And that messy world necessitates understanding all of those things and trying to do your best at them. I can't spell derivatives. Okay, so first is your CI. In your CI, you could leak the credentials of your CI. So if you're using NPM, for example, NPM update or upgrade, I don't remember which one it is, upgrade. I don't use NPM that often. Doesn't actually respect your lock file. It will update your lock file to a newer version. Don't use NPM as the example here, because Yarn at least does respect your lock file, and use your lock file, because in your CI system, you can break your crap and that would be bad. All right. So you have to use the command to use that you have to use, because that's how it's made, is npm CI. I think it means clean install. I'm not sure. This is the only command I found, if you're using npm, that respects the lock file. So another thing that you want to do, use a lock file, and in CI only use lock file respecting methods. So I'm not going to go over every tool. I don't know every tool. Don't do that. I don't know every tool, but the idea here is that if it's Yarn or whatnot, in your CI should respect the lock file, and it has to. If it doesn't, your CI is susceptible to Shai Hulud. Your CI. Okay? Your CI might have a lot of secrets to like deploy and crap. Just think about the effects of this. But it gets a little scarier. Don't use VS Code right now. VS Code, Chromium, I didn't see anybody talking about this, so I think maybe I'm crazy. But for right now, if you open up VS Code, which I'm not going to do, it auto upgrades packages. Do you know what those packages are? Do you know what those packages are? Those are node modules. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Now, if you already have VS Code open, if you already have Chromium open, go into them and disable automatic upgrades. You can go do it in the settings. You have to disconnect from the internet, and you can do it through UA. You can also do it through the settings.json file. So there is, you can go in through the settings.json file, and you can pull out or put in there not to automatically upgrade. But the default is automatic upgrades of node files. Like I said, I didn't look for confirmation bias on this, but this is terrifying to me. I think until we know that this isn't happening anymore, and like I said, I got tentative good news on Friday that it's maybe stopped. Tentative. I think we have to wait a long time, because there's hundreds of thousands of secrets that have been stolen. Hundreds of thousands. And we won't know until all of those are rotated. Okay? So at this point, I believe this is an attack vector. You need to turn off auto updating. Does your CI have spice addiction? I love it. Does your CI have a spice addiction? Okay, and so like, I know I've said this before already, but I spent a copious amount of time trying to understand the effects of this supply chain attack. I also spent copious amount of times saying, hey, how could I protect any company that I work for? And how could you? And these are the things that you've got to start thinking about. These are what's getting attacked in your supply chain. And they're just things that we have to start recognizing, understanding. All of these things are pretty terrifying. Now, I want to talk about Fort just a little bit more. Because maybe your CI does have a spice addiction. Oh boy, this box does not follow. That's terrible. That's terrible. Okay, we fixed it. Okay, we fixed it. Okay, do you use GitHub Actions? I want to ask you what an action is. What is an action? We're just going to remove that. What is an action? Lots are node packages. Okay, so in your workflows on GitHub, and you use some random person's action, it could be a node package, just so you're aware. How do you protect against this one? There's a free option that's a lot of work, and then there's actually only one company that I know that actually protects against this this specific attack. Like I said, I've been putting a lot of thought into this. I hope that you guys like the deep dive. I hope that you understand I'm not a security professional. These are my thoughts right now. These are what I understand at the moment. And I think that we need to take it seriously. I mean, I take all of my customers very seriously. I take their data, the trust that they give me, and I think that every company should. And so I'm hopefully helping you, empower you to start thinking about some of these things. Anyways, these are all attack vectors from Node. And this is just Node. We're talking about PyPy. We're talking about all of these others. PyPy has the exact same issue on their post-install scripts and things like that. No, not CloudStrike. Not CloudStrike. I wasn't throwing anybody under the bus, but let's see. CloudStrike definitely got busted. Which we can find one that throws CloudStrike under the bus. Well, which one? CloudStrike, yeah, CloudStrike publisher. Multiple CloudStrike NPM packages published. Now, just to be clear, CloudStrike does protect against this type of stuff. A lot of the stuff they do. There's several companies that do. That's why there are entire companies out there to protect against this type of thing. They also, do you know what CloudStrike's protection mechanism is? Whenever there's a possible vulnerability to a system, it just blue screens of deficit. It's just like, no, bro, you don't need to run this computer. You're just gone. Sorry, CloudStrike, you earned that one. I hope that you can laugh along with us now. I hope that you can laugh about this because you earned this, and I will keep making fun of this one. When you make that big of a mistake, it happens to all of us, some more publicly than others. Yeah, there's nothing more secure than your OS not booting. Exactly. What do you mean by posting? Okay, so I don't mean that it will be the exact same mechanism, right? But the worst part is PI/PY is something and PY/PI is something as well. One's like an index and one. Don't get me started. Python, just start naming them some other name instead of that, okay? Just do it. Just take a note from Nike. Okay, so how can you protect your CI right now? Well, there's a couple things for GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is the thing that I'm most knowledgeable about. So I'm going to give you my GitHub action take. If you're not using GitHub Actions, if you're using something else, you can take the idea from this. Okay. 1, all actions you use should be pinned by Shai. All right. Get accustomed to your friend, the Shai. Shais are your friend. This is actually in my best practices for GitHub Actions. You leverage Shais. You do not use at main at 1v1. Don't do this. This is bad. There's a couple reasons. One's security, one's because I like to know that I have a repeatable build. When you pin by Shai, you know the same thing is happening every single time. In this, well, maybe they don't know how to do Simver very well, and they break your build. And here, they're going to update it behind you, and maybe they update and have a supply chain attack that cripples them, okay? This is impervious to a supply chain attack as long as you did. This actually saved me from a supply chain attack. This right here. I had pinned to one version of before the supply chain attack happened. Oh my goodness. Okay. So use Shais. That's the number 1. Dependabot actually can upgrade these Shais for you and keep track of them. So like, it's not even that bad. 2. You know what? 2, I'm going to do this. Boom. Done. Much better. All right. That is not what I meant to do. There we go. All right. 2. Disable use. This one's painful. Just disable use of all actions outside your company. That one's painful. Now, what you can do is make a trusted list. So you can make trusted providers like GitHub, for example, could be one that could be leveraged. The other thing that you can do here to make this a little less painful is you can make a basically list of ones that people can leverage. And what you have to do this, now I wish GitHub made this easier because GitHub could make this simpler, but they don't. So what you have to do is you have to make a repository, make a repo that like basically re-imports the available ones. So you make a special repo that can use outside the organization's actions. And then you basically re-export them through that re-export actions from outside org. If you guys would like to see an example of this, I can do that. I can show you how to do this. It's a little bit complicated. I know I'm writing it simply here, but there is a way to do this so that you can basically limit but not completely remove people's abilities to leverage these outside org ones. This is the free option. There are companies that allow you to do this. Again, I'm not, DM me on Discord. I'm happy to get people in contact with the companies they need. I'm not giving them an ad. So if you need it, let me know on Discord. Happy to help you out on finding which ones of these will do this. Honestly, friends, the last thing that I wanted to bring you to was the Obsidian blog. This is 100% about NPM. Also, we just met the 1,000 follower goal. I have a 1,000 follower goal YouTube video planned out for you all. So when that releases, I'll let you know. Now, that being said, I have an I'm back to making YouTube video that I need to release first. But following that, so it'll probably be a couple of months, following that and a few educational videos that I have in the works. I have a video for the 1,000 subscribers. already planned, already written. It's going to be pretty funny. So congratulations. Nice work, everyone. Thanks for everybody's follow. Fantastic. I'm super excited. Man, I got up to like 990 and then nobody followed me for like 2 months. And that was a little hard on me. Not gonna lie. I was also suffering from Rocky Mountain spotted fever. If you guys don't know what Rocky Mountain spotted fever is, the Rocky Mountains gave us tornadoes and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Did you know that that's why the East Coast of the United States has tornadoes? Is because of the Rocky Mountains? I didn't know this until like a couple of years ago. Anyways, they gave us 2 things that are plagues to our society. Don't worry, you're actually more likely to get struck by lightning than you are to contract Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Which Rocky Mountain spotted fever has more to do with, it feels like having chickenpox while having a fever. It's amazing. It's amazing. And you have it for like 2 months. And I suffered from this for like 2 months. It was really a month and a half, but it's okay. It was a rough spot in my life. My goodness, it was rough. Okay. So let's talk about the Obsidian blog. Since we've reviewed all of that, here's Obsidian's take on this. I liked it. That's why I wanted to cover it. This is not a review of, this is not me reacting to it. This is me just showing you guys something that a company came out with. I just shared with you my tips of how to be safer in these types of things. This is not an exhaustive list. This takes a lot of stuff. This takes a lot of redoing practices. Using npm CI to respect the lock file is not something people really do. They use update or upgrade or install. Everybody's documentation says that. But I think everybody needs to go to npm CI so that you get that lock file respecting use. So anyway, there's a lot here. We're probably beating a dead horse at this point. So let's go to the Obsidian blog and just review what they released. I thought it also had some really good takes that I liked. Again, confirmation bias, blah, 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 sure. It may sound obvious, but the primary way we reduce risk of supply chain attacks is to avoid depending on third-party code. Now, I don't think they're sitting here stating, I wanted to be clear, when they say this, I don't think they're saying that they recreate every wheel, that they, that they wrote their own GTA, like they didn't write their own graphic driver and all of those things in the full stack. Like they do reuse code. Like, I don't think that they're saying they're not. They're just saying they actually think about the dependencies that they use compared to a lot of other apps that just pull in a bunch of apps. It's not saying that you don't, when you go to build your Rust app, use Tokyo. Tokyo is a great option. You don't go recreate that wheel, but you pick the option very specifically. You understand why you're picking it and what it does, and that it's a good application. You should actually review the things that the packages that you're pulling in to make sure that, they're actually doing their best effort to make sure they don't get a supply chain. Obsidian has a low number of dependencies, not none, low, compared to other apps in our categories. And you can go check in their credits page, which is pretty cool that they have, it's a decent number of things. Check it out. They use stuff, and that's great. But it's actually, for an app of their size, not that much, which is also cool. It's not Rocky Road ice cream. No, dude. No, it's not. Does this include transit? I assume no. They're not talking. Electron has a bunch of things. Mermaid. All of these have other things. These are their top level ones, right? All of these projects have their own dependencies. I get it. But if you're talking about if you're talking about a big application, these being the only top level ones are pretty great. Like this is not that many at a top level. All right. Features like bases and canvases were implemented from scratch instead of importing off the shelf libraries. This gives, I actually like the Excalidraw. That's what I use, but it's okay. It's okay. This approach keeps our dependency graph shallow with few subdependencies. A smaller surface area allows a chance for malicious updates. Sure. What actually ships in the code? Only a handful of packages are part of the app you run, e.g. Electron, CodeMirror, Moment.js, and other packages to help us build the app, and never ships to users. ESBuild or ESLint, version pinning, and lock files. Okay, so here's where it really comes. All dependencies are strictly version pinned and committed with a lock file. The lock file is the source of truth for builds, so we get deterministic, I think they meant deterministic in builds, but sure, installs. This gives us straightforward audit trail when reviewing changes. We do not run post-install scripts. This prevents packages from executing arbitrary code during installation. This was like one of the big things that I love. You know, post-install scripts, great. It's a node npm package, whatever. I don't care. But the looking for deterministic installs, you can take this to any language. You pin the lock files, you use the lock files, and you make sure that your CIs leverage those lock files. This is where the money is at right here. It gives you an audit trail. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. Slow, deliberate upgrades. When we do dependency updates, we read the dependencies chain log line by line, check subdependencies introduced in the new version, diff upstream when the change set is large or risky, run automated and manual tests across platforms and critical user paths, commit the new lock file only after these reviews pass. This is actually probably, you can only do this if you have few dependencies, right? Like half of us are sitting here thinking, holy crap, we could never do this. Like we have way too many dependencies to do this. You'd have to cut them down. This is going to slow development for sure. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Now, I think this is a double-edged sword, and they shouldn't be too proud of this. I think this is a double-edged sword because there's also security patches that are put up, and they need to be making sure that they're keeping up to date with those security patches. Those need to be prioritized, or else they're also going to be struck by something. So this here is a great balancing act. I don't hate it at its core. I think that slowing down on these and making sure you understand the changes is fantastic. But there's also a time and place to say there is a critical security vulnerability in this that is going to exfiltrate credentials or whatever. We need to actually patch that system and prioritize it. So it's a balancing act. Everything in life is a balancing act. Time is a buffer. We don't rush upgrades. There is a delay between upgrading any dependency and pushing a release. That gap acts as an early warning window. This is exactly what I was talking about here, where never ever use a 2-week or less old package off of npm, period, or PyPy, or crates.io, or whatever you want. If they've been supply chain attacked, this gives it time for it to be detected and caught. End of story. End of story. Fantastic. No single measure can eliminate supply chain risk. Absolutely. We talked about several, but choosing fewer dependencies, slower graphs, exact version pins, no post installs, and a slow, heavily reviewed upgrade cadence together make Obsidian much less likely to be. So I think some of this, grain of salt. I like a lot of this. No post install. Fantastic. Let's get away from post install. Now, post install isn't the only thing here. Like I don't want people to get hung up on post install. This was the mechanism, but they would have used a different mechanism. It just was the most convenient. Exact version pins, necessary. A CI that respects the exact version pins is necessary. Shallow graphs lets you be more methodical about this, but I think that you can have a larger graph and just don't use any package that isn't 2 weeks old. Like you don't have to change everything. Some things like to have slow, heavy review, heavy upgrade cadences. Some things are a little bit faster. I think that's probably something that you have to take into effect, but you can still do the 2-week time window. So anyways, I don't like the slow, and I do like review heavy, but I don't like the slow upgrade cadence when you're talking about a complicated microservice architecture. And the only reason they're not talking about that. Like every conversation you have to understand what they're talking about. They're talking about an app that gets a version release upgrade. And this is fine. This is great for an application that you install. It's great for a database. Do you know what it's not great for? It's not great for a complicated microservice architecture. And do you know why it's not great for a complicated microservice architecture? Is the bigger and slower that upgrade is, the less knowledgeable you are on the effect it will have when you deploy it. That's just fact. All right. Rant over. My recommendation right now, don't update anything with NPM. I haven't even upgraded my computer, my Pac-Man based Arch Linux. And the reason I haven't done it is because those installs could run Node or NPM, right? You've got to be thinking about this. I haven't used Brew. Brew can use Node packages. Yeah, that can run post-install scripts. Did you think about that? Absolutely. For this week, until next week, I'm not doing any of that. I'm hoping if Friday, the communication I've gotten from security professionals is that there's no new ones. But there's still fallout happening from this. So we have to wait for the dust to settle. Well, Dutch, that's because it uses Go. Have you seen Go package management? Please. Don't get me into scary as all crap is the Go package manager. Or lack thereof. All right. Let's move on to something more fun. I got just a little bit more news to cover, and then we're going to get into a little bit of Rust. We're going to get a little rusty. And it's going to be a little bit of fun. Guys, no drop frames. New internets. Perfect. I just got to actually install it now. That's all. That's all. Oh, look, we're picking on Node right now because I hate script. And also because it's the one that happened. I am pretty sure all package managers have this problem. And I think, honestly, you should just do this as a general rule of thumb. If it's not 2 weeks old or later, don't use it. I'm going to employ that with cryEats.io. If the package isn't 2 weeks old, I'm going to install the version before it.